Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm doing just a short orientation video for you. Many of you got the message that I kind of changed gears a little bit, and in looking at Peter's first letter, thought, wow, let's step back and take a little more time with this. We've been focusing a lot on the apostles' teaching from Paul, but quite often we don't spend a lot of time with Peter. So this gave us an opportunity to do that, and I think this letter has some really, really great things to think about and to discuss related to the times that we're in, and setting us for the things that God has in front of us in the post-COVID world, or the continuing COVID world, whatever it is. So I felt like the Lord just laid that onto my heart, and seemed like a great opportunity to do that. So what I sent to you all, if you got it on the Facebook Messenger platform, or here in this YouTube video, but also I'll send it out in an email just shortly after this. The link to this video, also a link to the overview video of First Peter. I think it's really important, as often as we can, to remember that the things that we learn and the teaching that we receive from God's Word is always in a larger context. And that's a very, very important part, as we saw in those two videos on the literary design and the historical context of the letters in the New Testament. And really, this is true for every book of the Bible, that we have as best an understanding as we can of the larger context, so that we can see that the things that were written to the audience then, what they mean for us today, or what significance, it's better to say it that way, what significance they have for us today, so we can think together in light of that. We always need to engage in that process as a community. And that's the way God's designed His Word to be used in the community. It's not merely me or anyone else giving information to you to think about and then go about things, but for us to engage in a process together and to try to put ourselves into the situation of the original audience, and look at how and why the author has written these things, and then think through them and their implications for us today, because that's the beginning of our story, and we are called by God to continue partnering with Him in the story that He's unfolding in the world. And that's the way we need to handle God's Word. So I hope that's helpful. And so I wanted to take this week to step back. Let's look at First Peter, and just talk about it overall, and get a sense of how it's written, and the makeup that's there before we go into some of the details. I just think that's a really, really good thing to do each and every time we can. Can't do it every week with every passage that we study, but I always try to bring that into our conversation, so that we create an ongoing awareness and understanding of how God's Word has come to us, and not only the context of its original writing, but how the author has communicated those ideas. So as you watch that video, I'll encourage you to, either prior to Sunday or in the next coming week, to give yourself an opportunity to sit down and to read the entire first letter of Peter. Probably a 10-15 minute exercise. It's not much. But to become familiar with it, read it in a couple of versions if you want to. I'm using the New Living Translation a lot right now, but the English Standard Version is another one that we use. Some of you like to go back to the King James Version from time to time, but I encourage you to read it across those, because you get a better sense of the way they're trying to express the original language that Peter used in Greek. And actually, Peter didn't write it himself. He had a scribe writing it for him, just like we saw back in the video on the historical context and the literary context of the apostles' letters. So this Sunday, we had a great time. I think it was just a real blessing and encouragement to be all together, to see all of your faces there, and we need to enjoy that. And but we don't want to be limited to that as the only way we gather together, because it's so limiting in terms of the conversation and the things that we could do. I saw how much time you all spent out in the parking lot, so that's good, and we need to do that. And I want to encourage that. So I want to make that available, and make sure as well that you're not just sitting and listening, but you're actually involved and actively participating. So that's why we're going to do a combination of that larger meeting on one Sunday a month, and then meeting in the four smaller groups or simple churches, as we've called them, the other Sundays. So we'll be on a simple church Sunday this coming Sunday, and we'll do that the next time we'll gather all together in the main auditorium will be on October 4th, I believe. That's the first Sunday. We'll do that on the first Sunday of November, the first Sunday of December, on to the first Sunday of January. So we're walking carefully. We also want to be able to just switch gears quickly if the situation with COVID-19 changes in our area. I don't want to have to create huge changes. I know that's hard for all of us to adjust to, so we're just trying to take little steps. Um, but again, we're trying to do the best of having a sense of being part of a larger family of God, and that the energy that's there when we're all together, but also the uniqueness of teaching and learning from one another when we're in those uh, simple church gatherings, um, led by our leaders. And so we'll have four of those groups. We'll meet indoors on the campus, probably one in the main building, and the other three in the back building. And so we'll be indoors from here on out, and that will be limited to an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. No food in those this time because we're indoors, and just again caution with things. So I'll get the list out to you of which groups you'll be meeting, and we've tried to provide a balance, and again put you in a group that aren't the same makeup as the groups that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years past, but so that for the next 4 months through January into the beginning of January, you'll be with the group. It's basically that second group that met this summer in August. So if you remember who you're with during that time, it's roughly based on that, and we've tried to balance it so the groups are all about the same. And many of you were here and there through the summer, but I really encourage it. It makes a difference when you're not there, and changes the chemistry of things. And we just an element is missing. You may not think that, but it is really, really felt, especially when we're meeting in these groups. So um, get those plans and take the measures needed to be there on 10 o'clock. It'll be 10 o'clock on Sunday. We're not going to change that time. 10 o'clock on Sunday for an hour and 15. And, plan to be there, bring the kids. It'll be interactive, everybody participating, and you'll have a video like this, or the video, in this case, it's the video I sent you from the Bible Project. And there'll be a set of discussion questions and things to think about um, prior to Sunday. So um, please go ahead and do that. Sorry about the phone notifications here. Um, After our Sunday, and we're going to try to do this while the weather is still somewhat good, is we will have a time just for hanging out in the front. And so after you're done in the simple churches, about 11:15, come out to the front door, that little area out there off of the parking, and we'll have a coffee service set up there. One person or two people at the most serving everybody, so it's not a self-serve thing where a lot of people touching different things. There'll be a place where you can get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and it'll be prepared for you and handed to you by one person who is, keeping clean, keeping hands clean. So we'll work on that, and that'll just give you an opportunity to hang out for a while outside and under the awning up front if it's a little inclement weather, and chat a little bit, and before you get in your cars and jump home. We want to make sure you get a chance to interact with others as well. So feel free and plan to do that on the outside and hanging out there, and obviously being outside. Social distancing is still important, but the masks outside is a matter, the situation, and as long as the distancing is kept up. But when you're indoors in any facility, front building, back building, please have a mask on. We're gonna do that, and that's true for all of our churches as we use things throughout the day on Sunday, and sometimes through the week. But most of our use right now is on Sunday. So I'll leave that with you. And again, this will go out, some information like this will go out into an email to you here soon today with a link to the video to watch, an overview of First Peter. Um, some discussion questions will be into that email as well, and the link to this video. We will also continue Zoom at noon. So for those of you that are not yet comfortable coming out or needing to quarantine, and that's still the case for some who've been traveling and coming from other places, that's going to be true for us when we go to Iowa in a couple weeks. Um, we will have the Zoom at noon so that we'll have that opportunity as well. And we'll continue to do that um, um, for the foreseeable future. So the link to that will be there, and you'll get an email again as usual on Sunday morning about an hour around 9 o'clock with the grace notes for that day, and you know, a link to the video one more time if you've got time to watch that. Be on the lookout for those things. We're continuing to try to use email, Facebook Messenger groups, and I may actually reorganize those Facebook Messenger groups around the new Simple Church pattern, so that you're communicating within that group and with the leader of your group for these next 4 months, because that's going to stay that way for some time. Um, Appreciate all that you guys are doing and to continue to do. Continue to pray for one another, and let's just make the most of the opportunity that God has given us, and it really is an opportunity. I think, and I just encourage you to continue to be praying about people that you can reach out to, that you should be praying for regularly, friends, coworkers, neighbors, that God would, even in this extraordinary time, draw them to Himself, use you to do that, and see them added to God's family. And we'll get, I think, a, a new and a fresh insight about that from Peter in this study that we'll do together over the course of these weeks ahead. A lot of topics related to what I'm going to call in this kind of mini series, "At Home with God." It kind of struck me reading this that's what it's about. You know, we're at home with God. You know, God is wherever God is, and God with us is where home is for us. It's not a place. It's a relationship and a situation with Him and with one another. So that's kind of the focus of where I'm going. So I'll sign off and look forward to seeing you all in the days coming. God bless you, and see you all on Sunday.